Right. Good morning and welcome to the last class for this round of Olive. We are looking forward to doing this some more in the future. Today we're going to review everything that we have done. Oh, okay, not everything. So we're going to be looking at structure. Right, my favorite part of English, creating structure. And let's go ahead and get stuck in. What are the three kinds of structure that we have talked about in this class? Who can tell me?
Object, subject, and the verb.
Okay.
This one?
Sentence structure. That's correct. So we've got sentence structure. What's the other kind of, so we know what our sentence structure is. Paragraph, exactly. And then the third structure we've looked at.
Essay.
Essay structure, exactly. There we go. So these are our main things. So in a sentence, we've got the old sentence structure is, you said it?
Yeah, verb, object, and subject.
Exactly. So subject, verb, and object, right? And if we want to see how this works, so a simple sentence is Anna went to her office. Where's the verb? As we always look for
Went.
the verb first. Exactly. So, right. So that's our action. That's what carries, that's what makes it a sentence, right?
Yep.
And Anna is the
Subject.
yes. And what did she do? Where did she go?
Office.
To our office, and that's great. So there's our simple sentence. Right. So what if we want to say more? We've got a lot more to say about Anna. We want to know about who she is, right? What about her office? Where is that office? Why did she go to the office? Now, we can do this in simple sentences, but will that get you a 7 on the IELTS? Or 140 on the Duolingo test? Will simple sentences get you there? What do you need to do?
Compound and complex sentence also.
That's it. That's it. So we can take all of these. So here we go. Oops. Oh, I have one more thing I need to put in here, which is, yes, no, that's to her office. So here we go. We've added one together. So we can take all of these little sentences. We can turn all of the extra information into clauses and add it to the main core sentence. All right. So here I've done one. So we've put a clause in to say who Anna is. So we don't have to have a separate simple sentence. Now we've got a more complex sentence. All right. So how would we add the next one in? How can we add where her office is?
Her office, which is located in London, you can say.
Yep, you could say which is located in, or you could just say in London. That works as well. So we can just use a prepositional phrase.
Office in London.
Right. Or we could use a clause, which would be which is in London.
Yeah.
Either one would work. Okay. Now we've got one more. We've got one more to add in. How do we add the why? Why did she go to her office?
To meet Prime Minister.
Yes. So we could
Mm.
use another prepositional phrase to meet with the prime minister. And or we can use a conjunction,
Yeah, I mean,
and then we need to keep the verb.
Hannah was my neighbor.
Okay, but let's go ahead and do the other one because I really liked that as well. So I'll just copy this. And then after this, we'll put in another clause. Oops. Be consistent. Oops. There we go. There we go. So two different ways of adding that extra information in. And this is what happens. So, but in each of these, do we still have our core sentence? Do we still have our core sentence?
Yeah.
So we've got Anna.
Went to
Yes, we still have. And that's the key to using your vocabulary, whatever level it is, right? And using using your vocabulary and this structure to get the highest level sentences. All right. You need to focus on that core sentence and then add the additional information in clauses and phrases. If you do that, you won't lose your core sentence and your grammar will stay strong. Okay. The big challenge when you have more things to say and you want to build a bigger sentence is it is easy to lose that active verb, right? If you use this method, if you think, okay, what is my sentence about? What are the main things? And then you start with who did what, and then add all of the rest in clauses and phrases. Yay, awesome. Sentence structure for the win. So how about paragraph structure? What do we do in a paragraph? Who can tell me? What does a paragraph look like?
topic sentence, then we have supporting sentences, and then concluding sentence, sorry.
Yep, that's and there we are. So the first sentence has got to tell you what's going to be in the paragraph. Point 1 and point 2 should be examples that illustrate the point. Should include examples. And then, oh, why do I not have conclusion? Oh, there it is. It just got bumped down because I added a sentence up here. There we go. Link or conclusion, yes. How the examples support the topic sentence or the overall essay. Right. And carrying on, how about essay structure? How about essay structure? What's the kata that I taught you for essay structure? Can anyone remember it? Hala? Mandusu?
Yeah, the introduction and the main body and then the conclusion.
Yes. So tell us what you're going to tell us. Tell us, tell us, tell us what you told us. Okay. And I like using the words tell us because it should be like telling a story. You should tell them what the story is going to be about, and then your and then your paragraphs should give exactly the story that you told them you were going to tell them. So when we're planning an essay, we're planning those middle paragraphs, because the first paragraph is telling us what those middle paragraphs are going to be, and the last paragraph is telling us what the middle paragraphs were and why they're important. So there you go. And this is what I've done included on this one, and this will be in the PDF for this class. So this is a structure of what that paragraph should be. Okay, these are the things that should be in that introduction paragraph. The thesis statement, what is it about? The context of it, what the main ideas are that you're going to, that need to be discussed, and what opinion or position or method you're going to be using. And then each of the body paragraphs will be exactly what we said before: topic sentence, supporting examples, and a link to the main position. So, and then in the conclusion, we have a restatement of the thesis, restatement of the supporting ideas, restatement of the examples, just a reference to, obviously not full sentences, and a restatement of a well-supported position or opinion. I have, in fact, I have written an example that is a very silly one. And I did this on purpose because I want you to really understand that, especially on the IELTS exam, it is not what you say in your essay. It is how you say it that counts. You can lie. You don't have to believe what you write. The only thing that is important is that you can think of it and come up with enough examples in the short period of time. And I will be sending you this essay as well. So if you think that I truly believe in my well-defended essay that we don't need to wear clothes, you're wrong. But I can defend this position in an essay. And this structurally is a proper IELTS essay, and you will find that it is the correct number of words as well. So if I get a word count, yes, it's 298 words. In the selection, 265 words. So well over our 250 minimum. So it is a full, I discuss both sides, I give opinion, I use complex and compound sentences, I use examples to support my opinions. So just in case you didn't believe me that it is possible to write, even if you don't believe it, what it is, even if it's a completely different, even if it's a silly idea, you can still write it and support it. It's the structure that is important. All right. Most important in the IELTS, put your opinion in the introduction. When they ask for your opinion, make sure that you state your opinion in the introduction. You will find many examples of IELTS exam essays where they say, in this essay, I will discuss both sides. I'm like, yes, that's what you were asked to do. How about you tell us what you're going to tell us? All right. That's why I like the phrase, tell us what you're going to tell us for the introduction. I want to know what those 2 paragraphs are going to be about. I don't know if I want to read your 2 paragraphs unless you tell me what they're going to be about. So even with just 2 brief sentences in this introduction, you know exactly what you're getting in the next 2 paragraphs. You know that I'm going to be talking about clothes that are, that are pretty and keep you from getting a sunburn. And you know that I think it's better and more natural not to wear any clothing at all. So you know what my 2 paragraphs are going to be. So I will include this in the email as well, just to help remind you that it is structure, 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 structure. That's what will get you through. And the nice thing is that once you're in university, you can use the structure for any essay that you were asked to write. It's still in English university essays. Make it clear from the very beginning what you're going to be writing about, and you will never go wrong. All right. So with that aside, let's get on to more fun things. So we have covered the listening and the reading and the writing. I will make sure that I include all the links to all of the resources for those. And of course, all of the videos for those are available to review. And but let's look at the speaking exam. It's the shortest. It is a face-to-face interview. It will always be a face-to-face interview. And here's the exciting thing. The examiner is your advocate. And that is a true and wonderful thing. Oops, I didn't remember to load this, so I need to find my Olive. There we go. Speaking clips. There we go. All right. So there's 3 parts to it. First is the introduction, and literally from the minute you go in and shake hands or say hello and give your name, it's begun. It begins from the minute you meet the examiner. They will ask you how you prefer to be addressed, which is very polite, and then ask you a few things about your familiar topics. Now I understand that they have that they tend to ask more about interests now and less about family, which is good. If you, and you'll see in the recording that one of the recordings that I show you, that you can change the subject, right? I had one student who was going in, and it was really not going to be, she was not going to be able to talk about her family if they asked. But she had a really good, she has a second family in the world of karate. which she studies, and the senseis and the people in that have been hugely supportive of her. So what I advised her to do was, if they ask about family, say, well, that would be a very difficult thing to talk about, but I have kind of a second family in the world of karate, and then to talk about those people. So if there's a subject that's going to be too hard to talk about, you can change it to something else. Okay. If they ask about your home, and that is a hard thing to talk about, you can find another way. Well, here's the places that I feel most at home now. So there is a cafe that I go to that makes me feel very comfortable. And here is where it is, because all they're looking for is the grammar and the vocabulary of a location, a description of a place. All right. So it doesn't have to be exactly the question that they answer. You can say, when they're asking on this first section, if they ask something that is too difficult to talk about, you can change it. You can change it. But they tend to ask more about interests and activities now than that. But I don't know, there's always a chance that you might be asked about something that is difficult to talk about. But if you think, okay, if they ask about home, they just want to know a description. Can you describe a place? Can you say where it's located? That sort of thing. It's that kind of basic grammar and vocabulary that they're looking for. So you can change and say, oh, there is a library that I spend a great deal of time in that I feel very comfortable and at home in. Can I tell you about that? And they will say yes. They're not going to make you talk about something that is hard or uncomfortable or painful. Okay. So I want you to know that you can change the subject that way. But so if you want to ask me later on, if there's something that is a specific topic for you that would be hard to talk about, if you want to send me an email and say, can we talk about the speaking exam? If you can't think of a way to deflect it, to change the subject, then talk to me. I'll help you. I'll give you a subject. We'll find one that will work for you, just in case you get into a topic that is too hard, too painful. Yes, you've got the vocabulary. It's just a matter of, there's no reason for it to be scary at all. So second part, you're given a card and asked to talk about a specific topic. And you have a minute to prepare. This is very like the beginning of the writing test. You want to look at the subject and you want to write yourself some notes, especially vocabulary words that you think that you will use. So whatever vocabulary immediately comes up, and maybe some examples, specific examples that you know you can talk about. This is a very helpful thing to do, written on paper, because if you get lost halfway through, you think about what you want to say, and then you stumble, you can look down at your paper and there's the examples that you thought of, and you can look at them and keep going. So the notes that you make are to help you keep going while you're talking. All right. At the end of this, and at some point, you may be cut off by the examiner. They may stop you before you've finished. That's not a negative. Remember, their job is to see how high you can go. So they may be very impressed with your understanding of your ability to talk about whatever the topic is, and want to start testing how far you can go with your grammar. All right. And I'll show you how they do that in the recordings. Let's just get to it. So the first one I'm going to show you is a German gentleman who, oh, I'm sorry, I should show you I'm going to show you the, so The marking scheme for the IELTS speaking is fluency and coherence. That means, can you keep talking? And so fluency is your just ability to speak freely. Pauses are not a problem, okay? Long pauses because you can't think of what to say, that was a bit of a problem. But this is why having those little notes during your speaking is really good, because that will keep you from losing your place completely. And coherence, do your sentences make sense? Do you have a logical progression in how you speak about things? Lexical recourse is just vocabulary. So fluency, vocabulary, grammatical range, and accuracy. So can you create long, difficult sentences? Now, you don't have to work at that. They're going to ask you speculative questions about the future. And when we speculate about the future, if something happens, well, then other things would be implied, or, you know, if, and you'll see those in the recording. That's what we're looking for in complex grammar. The key is to talk about the past, the present, and the future. If you have talked about the past, the present, and the future of your topic, you've already demonstrated a good grammatical range. That's what they're looking for. Verb tenses, can you talk about different points in time? Pronunciation. The accent is irrelevant. English is a worldwide language. There are as many accents as there are people speaking English. So all they're looking for is clarity. All right, so can they understand you? If they can understand you, no problem. Okay, so mispronouncing words because you have read them and never heard them is something that happens. That's not a negative, so long as they can understand what it is you're talking about. So very much like the grammar and vocabulary in the writing test, errors are expected. It's the important thing is, can you be understood? Can you make yourself understood? This is, if you keep saying to yourself, IELTS is an exam of communication. Can I communicate? And can I understand what is being communicated to me? If the answer is yes, you're in. You're fine. Okay. So let's look at a couple of them. I've included some of the outlines. So we're going to start with Hendrik because, and I want you to watch for I want you to be able to answer afterwards. How does the examiner help him get through the exam? All right. What does she do to help him get through the exam? And well, where did it go? There we go. So where's Hannah?
Now, we've been talking about a well-known person you like or admire, and I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions related to this. Let's consider, first of all, famous people in your country. So in Germany, what kind of people are famous?
Mostly sports people, I would say. Like, our favorite sport is soccer, so yeah, people who play this sport. Famous as well are politicians, but they are not admired or they're not liked or anything
So there's
like
a
that.
difference between being famous and being admired.
I think so, I definitely think so, yeah.
And politicians are only famous.
They are only famous because it's easy to blame them for everything what happens. At the moment we have the financial crisis in Europe, especially Greece and Ireland really have to suffer at the moment. And yeah, it's easy to blame something. You can't blame a soccer player, but it's easy to blame the politicians.
How about movie stars? Are they also famous in Germany?
Yeah, they are also famous, but not the German movie stars or music stars. We don't have a big, yeah, a big branch of this. More, yeah, American, yeah, mostly US American movie stars. But it's hard to, yeah, uh, it's hard to think that they are our role models, anything like that. They're living on the other side of the lake, and yeah, they're just in the television.
What about in the past? What kinds of people were famous in the past?
Um, Especially in the 70s, 60s, I would say musicians, because yeah, of this freedom, of this lifestyle we had there. Yeah, these musicians who yeah lived this.
And how about the future? Can you give me a prediction for the future?
Definitely not bankers.
Not bankers.
Yeah, because of the financial crisis again. Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe people who yeah serve the planet and who wants to save the planet, work for this. So environmentally people, I could yeah would be quite likely because we have this theme of global warming at the moment. It's well discussed, and yeah, so I would say this could be likely.
Now let's talk about celebrity culture. Often famous people are used in advertisements. Can you give me some examples of that?
I don't watch a lot of television, but so television or see advertisements, so I can't give many examples actually.
Well,
But
how about for instead of for products, how about celebrities being involved in advertising for causes or charities? Have you seen examples of that?
yeah, sometimes like for environmentally things, I can't name any celebrities, but it's quite often that they use this image. A celebrity has done something in his life, and many people admire him for the one or the other reason. So it's quite a good thing that they use a celebrity because he, as a role model, yeah, stands for something, and he stands yeah, for the environment or maybe for a product. So the people who admires him, yeah, wants to buy this product, wants to do something for the environment.
Now let's change to the negatives. What kind of possible negative effects might a celebrity have on younger generations?
Yeah, as I said, they are role models for many people. And this rugby star who was in the television the last weeks and months, go on the wrong path and taking drugs or yeah, just living the wrong lifestyle, then yeah, the young people think, hey, it's cool what he's doing. So he's famous, he has money, he's taking drugs, so hey, that fits together. I want to do the same.
So you think that his behavior actually can influence how younger generations choose to lead their lives?
I definitely think so, yeah.
So do you think that a celebrity has a moral responsibility to behave in a better manner in public?
As long as he is famous, as he is in everyday life, he definitely has. He's not only the normal person. If he is at home, it's okay what he's doing. I don't care. But yeah, at the very moment he goes public or is on television or in the newspapers, he definitely has a responsibility because millions of people are watching what he is doing.
So would you say that there's an obligation that a person who becomes famous, they have an obligation to behave in a more ethical or moral manner?
Yeah, and if he can't stand this pressure, then yeah, he should take care that he's not being famous. No, somehow. I don't know whether it's possible somehow, but yeah, there is this obligation definitely.
Well, thank you very much. That's the end of the speaking test.
Thank you.
Right. So, what did you think? Was that what you were expecting the speaking test to look like?
Well,
I was really surprised that she really helped him. I thought we just talk and they listen all the time. So she was really quite helpful.
You saw, what did she do when he said, I don't watch television, so I don't know about advertisements?
She gave him examples just to answer about her question.
Yeah,
So yeah, because I can't say anything about celebrities in my country because we have different, like, not different celebrities, but you know, different needs. So we don't care about our celebrities. It's just politician, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's I'm really now more like comfortable about the speaking skill. I'm not worried about it anymore.
Good, good.
Yeah, it's like conversation. It's not like investigation.
Yeah. And did you see did you see what did she do to help him speak in more tenses?
About the obligations.
Do you remember?
Yeah, when she said,
your music.
yeah, uh, about obligations that if they are famous, they have obligations and
Yes.
responsibilities. So she gave him idea to talk
Exactly.
and yeah, explain about what he want to say.
And how about the time tenses? Did you see what she did? You were going to say something. You said something before, Der.
Yeah, I say that she asked him some follow-up questions. Yeah, to follow up on the same issue. For example, when you said about the politician being famous and being admired, then she asked him, is there a difference between being famous and being admired? And that's how she encouraged him to, or she induced him to speak more and for, yeah.
And she specifically asked about the past and the
Yeah.
future as well. So once again, that gave him a chance to demonstrate that. And that's what she was doing. That's what I mean. It's their job to see how high you could go. And their job is to help you. And I'm really glad that that makes you feel a little bit better. Shall we look at one more? Just to see. We can look at, we could go lower or higher. It's your choice. And all of these recordings are available in the Google Drive, which I will repeat the connection to. So you can look at all of these there.
And this one is academic, the academic IELTS.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, actually, I think that Copy is a really good one to look at because yeah, I think we'll look at this one real quick. Let's see. There we are.
We've been talking about a well-known person that you like or admire, and I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions related to this.
Okay.
Let's consider, first of all, famous people in your country. So in Botswana, what kind of people become famous?
Famous. Probably musicians would get more attention, mostly because music is an everyday thing. Everybody can listen to it. Everybody can contribute towards it. So I guess it reaches a lot of people. So in that way, I think mostly musicians. Yeah.
Is that the same as in the past? In the past, were musicians also celebrities?
I don't know. I'm not sure whether celebrities is the right word to use. But yeah, well known, I think, would be the one. Yeah, in the past, I think it's also been like that because even the old generation were reaching out through music. So yes, in some way, I believe, yeah, still the same.
What about in the future in Botswana? Who do you think are going to be the famous figures?
Movie people. I don't know.
Movie people? Is the film industry developing?
It's a growing country, so it's growing in every respect. So I wouldn't put it past them to see in the next I don't know, Brad Pitt out of there. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about celebrity culture now. How are famous people used in advertising?
Well, same music. It reaches out to people, so the government and other companies and other bodies in the country are trying to use music to reach out to people and pass the message. So in that that regards, I think music is playing a part in that way. So
Are there other commercial reasons?
commercial, I think my country is not really commercialized at the moment. It's not really.
How about in general?
In general, I don't know. Not really. Yeah.
Well, how about negative effects? How can celebrities create a negative effect in our youth?
Well, there seems to be a growing trend among our celebrities to be taken to recreation drugs and stuff like that. So I see that as a, you know, step back. I think it's affecting our nation. So it's one of those things you'd want to get rid of, but it's probably going to take a while. So
Do you think that the actions of one person can really impact an entire generation like that?
definitely, yeah. It can have a ripple effect on it. It depends on how we as a society are going to take it. You know, how we perceive people and how we, you know, absorb what they bring out into the community. Really, yeah.
How about influencing public opinion? Can you think of any ways in which famous people might be used to influence public opinion?
Probably politically, I think.
How so?
Because you know, you see them out there in the rallies, political rallies, advocating for other, you know, candidates, political candidates, and I think in some way, especially the youth, they're easily influenced by you know, what's the trend, who's doing what, and if I was a musician and I'm going for a particular political candidate, it's quite easy for them to follow that way. So yeah,
Well, thank you very much. That's the end of the speaking test.
thank you.
So, as you see, once again, that's a band 8. So even though he paused quite a lot, it didn't go against him at all. You know.
This is the problem, John, with the speaking and the writing exam, that sometimes you are struggling with the brainstorm, no ideas. Yeah, like sometimes I can write and write that don't stop, but sometimes I have nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Yes, I can understand that very much. It is why practice is so important for the writing. And because actually practicing for the writing will help you practice for the speaking. Because when you're given that card and you need to speak about it for 3 minutes, it may be a subject that you never thought about speaking about before. And just like the questions on the exam, on the writing, may be questions that you never thought on topics you never thought about writing about before. So practicing as many examples as you can before the exam will make it easier for you to be able to respond at the time, because you'll be accustomed to looking at it and going, and figuring, well, actually, yeah, maybe we should do a special one on what do you do when you look at something and you have no idea about the topic at all. Because that would be the biggest challenge.
That would be the biggest challenge. Like sometimes it's good to like think out of the box.
Mhm.
Like if you find yourself in that situation, at least you'll be able to come up with one or two topic. Then the speaker will try to like, because what I just watched, the lady tried to keep them in in track and focus on what the question is all about, so that they cannot go out of what they are trying to discuss, because it's more about famous. It's all about famous. So like she tried to like keep them in what the topic is. Even though some struggle to respond to certain questions, but she makes sure that they can have example of what they should say. So like sometimes you need to think out of the box to respond to one or two messages. As soon as you start to respond, the person will be able to help you. But if you don't try to make any movements, then it will be difficult also for the questionnaire to like know where you are coming from and where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he was clear about, well,
I don't watch
one
TV.
is not very commercial.
Yeah,
She adjusted the question,
yeah,
and that's the key. So it's okay to say that contextually there's a problem with the question so just like the German guy saying, well, I don't watch television, so I can't really tell you about advertising or give you examples of it.
like when she gave him example, he know how to come out from the box and say what the lady was expecting him to say.
And it's, I mean, because ultimately, what he says doesn't matter. How he says it does.
Yeah.
So that's why she can change the topic enough so that it makes it possible for the person to speak. That's more important than test. It's not a test of knowledge on the subject. It's the ability to speak in speculative language, because notice both of them, she asked them to speculate what if, right? So there's going to be that kind, because that's very, all of that language that we use to, if it rains today, will I go for a walk? Probably not. The if then concepts, you wouldn't be able to speculate and to talk about, the past and the future and all of that. So once you've got that, you're really okay, and they will help you through it. And that's their job, is to change the question so that you can answer. But so yes, right. Any questions about the speaking test at this point? There's more examples here. You can look at what the lower level ones look like and beyond. But what I'd like to do now is give you a quick review of the pocket version of how do you survive, how do you get through the IELTS. And so, but if there's any other questions about the speaking exam at this point, I'm glad that helped make you feel comfortable that it's not going to be a terrible thing. And so I've got a little bit of a slideshow that sums up everything I've said about the IELTS exam since the beginning of class. Okay. So here's how you get through it. On the exam day, eat a very good bread. This is so important. You're going to be spending 4 hours in an exam. You get to take a bottle of water with you. That's it. Make sure you eat. Just make sure and make sure that, so obviously we're not taking exams during Ramadan. Not a good idea. Your brain's got to be fed. You need to sleep well if you can the night before. Make sure you eat a very good breakfast, because it's got to last you all the way through. Take a bottle of water. So get a water bottle, take the label off, and take a bottle of water with you. It can't have any you have to take the label off because it can't have any writing on it. You can't take anything with writing on it into the exam. All right, so take a water bottle. And this is also true of the Duolingo test. All right, if you're taking the Duolingo test in your room or wherever, if you've got either a clear glass like I've got right now, or a bottle with the label removed, they advise you to have that with you in the test. Okay, is one of the few things you can have in the Duolingo test. You absolutely want to take this with you into the exam. All right. Take pencils and blank paper. Now, some of my students have been able to take the blank paper with them into the class, some into the test. Some have had to use the backs of papers that they were given in the class. You can ask for blank paper. Blank paper, tell me why you need blank paper for the writing test. Because they're going to give you a writing book to write in. But why do you need blank paper? What's the first thing you're going to do when you read the question?
To dot down some words like you know that you're going to need as you start putting down your answers.
Exactly. You're going to brainstorm and you're going to organize.
Yeah.
And you need scrap paper for that. So take pencils and paper and breathe. All right. The fear and anxiety parts of our brain are the oldest and deepest parts of our brains evolutionarily. We are descended from people who responded really well to fear because they ran away from the danger instead of staying there and getting eaten by the lion or the whatever. So we physically respond to anxiety and fear. And one of those ways, and they've got MRI, they've got fMRI images, I've seen them, of what happens to the brain with anxiety and fear versus when it's thinking. And it changes the blood flow in your brain. So reality is you're going to see that exam in front of you and you're going to have that fear reaction. It's one of those things that happens to us all. So we have, and the thing is that it's a mechanical switch. As soon as you have the anxiety, the deep core amygdala in your brain will shut off the blood flow to the higher functions and make sure that all your energy is reserved for the fight or flight, the run away. But we can't run away. And we don't need to be afraid because it's not a bear, it's not a wolf, it's not a lion, it's an exam. But the dark, deep parts of our brain doesn't know the difference. There's a way we can tell it everything's okay. Because the one thing that you can't do when you're in danger a big, slow, deep breath is a physical switch that will restore the blood flow to the higher functions of your brain. This is educational neurology, neurobiology. I've got the images to prove it. It works. A long, slow, deep breath before you write, before you face it. And if you will, every time you practice for either of these exams, at the beginning of your practice, before you open the first question, before you answer the 10th question, Anytime you feel the tension build up, big slow intake of breath, very slow exhale. And you will turn that switch back to on. All right. It is a physiological switch. The anxiety turns the blood flow off. That big deep breath turns it back on. Use it. Practice it. Practice it. Practice it while you're practicing for the exam. And then when you go into the exam, you won't have to think, oh, right, I need to remember to breathe. No, you'll do it automatically. You'll look at an exam question and you will automatically, without even thinking, and your brain will work. So, yes, the breathing app, you can look it up and it's literally called the breathing app. Highly recommend it. Very simple. Practice deep breathing, slow breathing. It's awesome. It doesn't ask you to think about anything. It doesn't give you any guided meditation. It's just a breathing app. It just helps you remember to breathe in and let your brain work, because you're beautiful and brilliant. Right, and the basics. It is a test of communication, not knowledge. They don't care what you know. They want to know, can you communicate? Can you understand what's being communicated? Can you understand what you read? Even if it's an unfamiliar topic, can you understand it? And can you communicate? That's all the test is about. Can you understand? Can you hear? Can you listen and read? Can you communicate? Can you write? And can you speak? The answers are found. I just showed it, but if you're listening, the answers, where are the answers found? Where can you find the answers on the IELTS exam?
Introduction.
Where do you find the answers on the in the IELTS exam? The key to the answers is in
the question.
Yes, exactly. So and that's true of Duolingo or this, that question has got the answer inside it. If you understand that question, you understand the answer. Careful reading and understanding the questions is how you get the highest mark. It's not about reading the documents. It's about reading the questions. All right. 3 hours. Listening is 40 minutes. Reading is 60 minutes. Writing is 60 minutes. Speaking is the fast one. It's less than 15 minutes. It's usually 14, but so in the listening, first thing, breathe. The tape will be played only once. So you really have to be calm and open and listening. Keeping that calm, even though things are going to come too fast and you will miss things. That's why you need to practice. You need to practice being open to the listening. Now, on the in the Google Drive that I've linked to previously, there are many listening tests. The more you do, the more you'll be able to stay calm, stay open, and keep listening forward. You find the answers in the questions. The answers will come in the same order as the questions as well. And you're always listening to the next one. The biggest danger in the listening test is to lose your place, where you don't know what question is coming next. Okay, that's the hardest thing about the listening test, is if you do get anxious and and you try and answer something that has already passed, you will lose your place and you won't hear the next answer. So you always are listening towards the next answer. The more you practice, the easier it will be. In my best dream, all of my students go to the exam and there's no surprises because they've practiced so many that they look at the test and say, oh, I know how to do this one. Maybe I don't know all the answers, but I know how to do it. Okay, so always be listening to the next answer. If you miss something, let it go. You can guess at the end if you need to, but if you don't let go of the one that just passed, you will miss the next one and you'll miss more. And you can always guess at the end. Whoops, there we go. Reading, very similar, right? First of all, I want you to know, if you didn't, the most important thing to know is you cannot read the documents. This reading test is not about reading the documents. What is this reading test about?
Answering question.
Really, yes. It's about answering 40 questions. All right. You've got 40 questions and 3 documents, and you've got 1 hour to do it. It is not possible to read the documents. Like, reading the documents first is like going blindfolded into a newsagent, picking a magazine off the shelf and reading it cover to cover. Why would you do that? Would anyone ever do that? I would never do that. We only read for a reason. We only retain things that we read if we have a reason to. So when we look at a magazine, we get a question in our head. Oh, there's a picture of somebody I admire. Maybe I will read about, maybe it's a good article about them, right? And then we find out if it's a good article about them. And then maybe we buy the magazine and take it home and read it. But we don't read for no reason. The questions are our reason to read. So there's no point in going into the reading exam and reading these documents because we don't know why we're reading them. There's only one reason to read them, to answer the questions. So if we know what the questions are, we know why we're reading, and now we can read the documents. And then we also know that we don't have to read the whole document. We just have to read enough to get the answers. So it's the questions that give us. So if you go to if you review the lesson that we did on the reading exam, you'll find that I give you the answers, the questions without looking at the documents. And you'll see that, and you'll see that you can predict the answers to many of the questions. And then, and by the time you've read the questions, you know what the article's going to be about, and you know what you need to learn from it. So use guide words in the questions to locate the answers in the text. Skip the difficult questions and leave them to the end. Because remember, this is one exam to measure from level 1 to level 9. The only people who are going to understand and get the answers to every single question are the people at level 9. For a level 7, you need to get 30 questions right. Okay, so there's 10 questions you don't even have to worry about. So answer all the questions you can answer easily first, then try the hard ones and move on. You can always guess at the end as well in the reading. Guess any questions you cannot answer, and if it's multiple choice, always guess the same letter or number. Pure statistics means that if you guess A for every multiple choice question that you don't know, you will get some points. If you guess a different letter for each one, you are actually statistically less likely to get the right to get any of the extra points. It's a funny statistics thing. So, right. Questions about the writing test. What do we do? We've got the most important things are to plan your writing. Half of the marks are before you even put the pencil down. Half of the marks are understanding the question. Did you understand it completely? Did you address the whole task? And structure. Did you organize your writing? And is it logical? Half of your mark happens before you write the first sentence of your essay. And do you have clear paragraphs? Vocabulary, this is easy. Hello, John.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
That's okay. Vocabulary, do you have the words you need and do you use your words accurately? This is important. The accuracy is important. If there's a word that you think maybe, well, you memorized it because it sounded fancy and it was in an academic word list that you once read, but you're not entirely sure about how to use it. Should you use it? Because it was on a fancy academic word list. But you're not quite sure how to use it, if you've got it accurately or not. What do you think? Should you use it or not? The answer is not. Make sure that the vocabulary that you use is vocabulary that you can use and use accurately. You won't get extra marks for using a large word because it's a large word if it doesn't fit perfectly. All right. There are no rewards for memorizing things. There are phrases and ways of speaking that you can memorize. Hopefully everybody found those in the words that help you say more section of the last class notes. And I'm going to make sure that a lot of these resources are easily available in the documents section for the OLIVE program as well. Okay, so it's important to be accurate. Don't memorize whole sentences, but know how to use things like furthermore, or as previously noted, phrases like that. Those are the important ones to learn to use. Okay. And grammar. Can you construct effective sentences? Now, that's what our whole structure program has been about. You've got to have a core sentence, and then you can pack in all the clauses and phrases you want to expand that sentence and make it more complex. And can the reader understand your meaning? Even in level 8, okay, even in the band 8, you are allowed to make mistakes. They cannot. The difference between level 5 and level 6 is sometimes in level 5 or band 5, your meaning may be hard to understand. By level 6, it's clear. By level 7, it's crystal clear with fewer mistakes. But even in level 8, band 8, there's still allowance for errors. But most important, this is a communications test. Can the reader understand your meaning? That's the most important part. All right. So task 1, we've got 150 words to describe what you see, just what you see. No opinions, no outside knowledge required, just describe what you see. Describe it as though the person reading your essay cannot see it. All right. I was taught that the perfect task 1 writing is a description that is so accurate that the person reading your description can actually draw the graph for that you've described. It might be a flow chart, it might be a table, and they've done a lot of maps lately. So there are some good examples of map descriptions, and I recommend making sure that you can do that kind of comparison as well. No opinions, but you can analyze the relationship between the different parts of the chart or the graph. So start with an overall statement. Overall, this chart, so you start with a pure description. The bar chart describes office supplies, I'm sorry, school supplies by quantity. All right. The flow chart describes the process of analyzing a problem with a lamp that is not working. All right. Then an overall statement. Overall, and that's where you give your basic analysis. It's like the overall statement in task 1 is like the introduction in your essay. You want to say, what are the high points? You'd see that pencils and pencil sharpeners are the most numerous school supplies in this one, right? So you start with an overall statement, a clear and complete description of the image, and then key features. What are the high points? What are the low points? What's the relationship between them? And an analysis. So the key features is where you're going to be picking out the details. Analysis, when you're going to talk about how those details relate to each other. Right. The task 2 and most important thing, read the, oh, I'm sorry, I should ask if you've got any questions about this. Any questions about task 1? Has anybody practiced a task 1? Right. I will be making sure that you've got my email address if you want, and I'm happy to respond to and give you feedback on any writing practice or exam practice that you do in the future. You're welcome to email me with that, and I will answer. Okay. Task 2, most important, read the question. Don't read it briefly, look at it. Figure out what the most important parts are. Highlight the key words, find the main point, find that magic word. What is necessary? Is is a parenting class necessary? What should schools be teaching? Should they teach traditional subjects, or should they teach? So remember, that word should is going to be vital. Necessary, that's what you're talking about. Find the main points. And then plan. So get some idea, write down as many ideas as you can think of, and then put them in order. And once you've done that, think of any examples that you can use to explain them. And you could take all of this and go back to my clothing essay and see that I've got specific examples for everything that I say, right? State your position in the introduction. Make sure that your opinion is in the first paragraph. Make sure you put your opinion in at the beginning. You don't want to, some people, there are some IELTS prep teachers who will say that you put it in the conclusion. That's crazy. If you run out of time, you haven't given an opinion. And the whole point is to give the opinion and support it. Well, how can you support it if you haven't told people what it is? So put your opinion in that introduction so that all of your paragraphs can be tied, linked to it. That way, if you run short on time, you've still covered everything in the requirements. Right, so 1 main supporting idea in each paragraphs, 2 to 4 supporting points with examples, okay? Or maybe, and then check for errors. What do you think is the best way to check for errors in your essay at the end? What would you do after writing 4 paragraphs to check the spelling and grammar?
You go through it, you read it again before taking another paragraph.
Okay.
You start reading from the bottom.
Yes, that's the answer. That is the one. Once again, the neurobiology of learning. If you read from the top down, because you're going to be following the same logic that you used to write it, your brain is going to shortcut and show you what you think you've written. If you read it in reverse order, you will find the mistakes. Try it out on the next piece of writing that you do. Read it from top down and see how many errors you can find. Then read it in the sentences in reverse order, and you'll find all the rest of them. I learned this very early because I come from the century when, well, I was happy when I got a typewriter. Got my first experience writing on a computer in university, and it was a text editor. We didn't even have spell check on those. There was nothing. It was a text editor on a line printer. So yeah, on a mainframe computer. So I'm that old. The only way I made it through was to read my essays backwards. And if you do this, it really does work. You will see the errors because you're not. Half the time, if you read what you've already written, you're thinking about the next sentence while you're reading the one that you're on. And I've tested this in class. I've had people read over paragraphs that they wrote in class, and they will fix it. If they read from the top down, when they read it out to me, they'll fix it as they're reading it without even knowing, because it's the brain is really clever at this. So yes, read at the end, the last 5 minutes, read from the reverse order. So magic of this, you've got 40 minutes to write this essay, 5 minutes to plan it, 30 minutes to write it, 5 minutes to review it and correct and make sure that it's perfect. Okay, if you do that, if you spend that 5 minutes planning and ordering what you write, the process of writing is going to be so fast. I get a lot of resistance from people, and every time I've taught this in person and people have handed me we've had a practice exam, and I can tell immediately who has written a plan and who hasn't. If you don't write a plan before you write this exam at the beginning, you will not get a 7. It won't work because you won't have the structure, and you'll end up repeating yourself and wandering back and forth about what you talk about. It's super important. So really do practice planning your exams. In fact, I mean, my favorite thing to do, I do like to assign people, just read as many questions as you can and sit there and just take a question every day, and don't even bother writing the essay, just write a plan. Here's my brainstorm of ideas. Here's the order in which I would write them. Practicing that alone will build your strength on this exam. So there we go. In the speaking, 11 to 14 minutes. We've got 3 parts: introduction, questions about things you like. Again, if it's a question about something that's uncomfortable, like home or family, if those are problematic for you, if it's a problematic subject, you are allowed to deflect. You can change. Well, I can't really talk about my family, but I've got another family that I've kind of made around me, of all of my friends in the circus arts, which is actually true for me. My family, not so good. My friends, the community that I've got inside the juggling and circus world, they mean everything to me. And so I would talk about them. Home, maybe home is difficult, yes, but you know what? There is a library that I go to that feels like home to me. It is so comfortable, and I can sit there and read for hours, and there's always something interesting that I can find there, and I feel safe and comfortable in this place. Doesn't have to be exactly what they ask. All right. The middle part, talk about a given subject. There's no getting around. You have to do. This is why, because the subjects can be wide-ranging, whether it's about celebrity or social issues or environmental issues, anything like that. This is why I encourage you to read lots of News and Levels or other news sources. Read about industry, read about culture, read about food, read about environment, science. Read as many different topics as you can, because then whatever you're given, you will have ordinary language to speak about them in. So read. You're given a card and a minute to prepare. Once again, just like in the writing, making notes, brainstorming. What are the things I want to talk about? And then put numbers next to them. What order are you going to talk about them in? And that way, if you lose your place, you don't remember what the next thing you meant to say was, you can look down and say, oh yes, number 2 was about was this idea, this example. All right. And that way you will be able to keep going. You'll be able to keep talking. You will be given further questions about the given subject, which you saw. Those are going to bring out your extended levels of grammar. Right. The examiner's questions. So once again, the answers are in the questions. You could hear in the questions what she was trying to get, right? What she was trying to get the person to expand on. If you look at some, I recommend, if you look at some of the lower level, like the 5.5 bandwidth speaking test, you can see, you'll see in some of those examples, it's really worth looking at some of the lower ones, because you'll see examples where you can hear, yes, the examiner is trying to get her to say or to use this, the past tense, or that she's trying to get her to do a what if sort of statement. But they can't, the person either doesn't or can't fully respond. But if you really look at the examiner's questions, they really are there to help you. The examiner's job is to see how high you can go and to help you get there. They are your advocate. Whoops. Yeah. Yes, the examiner is your advocate. Sorry, flickering around. To see how high you can go and to help you get there. There you go. Right, the assessment tenses, past, present, future, and compound tenses, complex and compound sentences and conditionals. But like I said, as you saw, the examiner will guide you into these as well. The vocabulary, is it sufficient? It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need any specialized knowledge. How easily you can speak. Will you keep talking, or do they have to or do you sometimes stop? The one thing is not to do, don't stop. They'll interrupt you, but just keep talking. If you've got ideas, keep talking. And then pronunciation is just about clarity. So listen to the examiner. The examiner's questions and prompts are there to improve your mark. So once again, the overall for this exam, the fundamental, big deep breath. The questions are your guide. You follow the questions, listen to the questions, look at the questions, listen to the questions, read the questions. The answers are all there. Right. Okay. So that is right. Oh, there we are. Is it that one? It's this one. Yeah. So that's how you get through the IELTS exam. Any questions at this point? I think I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Yeah. Any questions at this point about this or the Duolingo exam? How are we doing? Anyone have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just no.
Yes, Medusa.
Can you please drop your email at the chat box so that I can screenshot it and reach out to you later?
Say again.
Can you please drop your email address at the chat box, please?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oops, that was a direct message. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. She's already out. Wait. I can do this again. Everyone in the meeting. There we go. There we go. So there you go. So yes, as you are practicing, feel free to contact me. I'm really happy to get back to you on things. Sometimes my schedule may be awkward, so it may not be instantaneous, but it will happen, I promise. So,
John, I just want to ask you about the topic which I sent you about the kindness. So I need to know if I need to improve anything or to avoid any mistakes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, tell you what, I'm going to stop recording now because that's pretty much everything. And thanks to everyone who's watching. All right.